Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Well, hello there. Some of you might... This is a fits and starts kind of a beginning here. Hi. We're running to get Chris Potter, who will be joining us, and we know we're starting a little bit early, although we didn't, because Never mind. It's just all a bunch of... I am sitting here, guys, looking at the decision in the voter ID law. It was handed down this morning, and we lost. We lost big. I was reading... scanning, really, the opinion by Judge Robert Simpson, and he just doesn't see it. Doesn't think there's that much of a problem. He thinks there's more of a problem if they yank the law now than if they proceed ahead. He thinks that more people will be harmed. I don't know. At one point, he actually said that one of the witnesses, somebody with the state, when questioned about how difficult it would be if this got yanked, in terms of Potter.
What?
Were you doing? Oh, you're on time.
I was on time.
Okay, have you read this?
I've just been going through it.
I was skimming it too.
Yeah.
And it's beyond belief. There's a point at it. I was just trying to, and I want to find it here. There was a point at which the judge says, even though what's his name from the Commonwealth under examination was equivocal in his remarks about how big an impact this would have on the Commonwealth if we yanked it out from under their feet, you could see by his demeanor. Did you see this? Demeanor.
Yes, that's where he accuses. That's where he accuses the expert retained by the ACLU.
No, but he's saying that the guy looked, even though his words were saying one thing, he looked distressed.
Yeah. And
the judge goes with, he looked distressed, so he didn't think he was really telling the truth about how big a problem is. What kind of it? That blew my mind.
Yeah, it's a disaster for the ACLU. He accuses their expert of bias. This is the expert they retained to basically do a phone survey of people about what they knew about the law, what they understood about it. He accuses them of bias. He basically says of the numerous people they brought, the witnesses they brought to testify about their own hardship getting voter ID.
Yeah.
He says, look, a lot of these people some of these people will be able to get absentee ballots, so it won't affect them.
And then there's provisional ballots.
Right. So
and
he basically
for African Americans.
Yeah.
I mean, there was not one thing that he... Who is this guy?
He is a conservative judge. The problem now is, no matter what he decided, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. The problem is the
prevail.
Supreme. Yeah, it's hard to see how they're going to overturn this. I haven't gotten all the way through it. One of the things he says is too much of their case was based on sort of speculation about the chaos that would sort of unfold, that would unfold from the law. But just because a law may result in chaos, that's not written into the law itself. You can't do what's called a facial challenge. The law on its face doesn't say this stuff. So you can speculate all you want about what's actually going to unfold as a result of it, but that's not a basis for me to take action, is essentially his argument. So it's pretty bad.
He also says over and over again that he doesn't think that the ACLU would prevail at the Supreme Court. And so because he doesn't think they prevail at the Supreme Court, he ain't going to let them prevail with his court.
Well, in fairness, I mean...
Is that what...
No, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, what they were essentially looking for is a preliminary injunction. And a preliminary injunction is basically before something even happens, we're going to prevent it from taking effect. And there's a pretty high standard to meet for a judge to issue something like that. And one of the things the judge has to say is, once we finally have a full-blown court proceeding on this, are the people asking for this injunction likely to prevail? In other words, I have to make a determination that there's a good chance that they're going to win. Otherwise, issuing a preliminary injunction is just stupid, right? Because they're just, then... So essentially, he's saying, I don't think they're going to prevail. And so I can't fine for them on that basis. Moreover, the other thing he said, which I thought was sort of interesting, was if I issue this injunction now, it's actually going to cause more disruption than if I don't.
And if you don't.
Because that will interfere with the ability of the state to get out the word about this stuff. He also says, I find it credible that the state is going to do everything it can to notify people and to administer this law in a nonpartisan manner.
Petitioners, that's the ACLU, did not establish that disenfranchisement was immediate or inevitable. On the contrary, the more credible evidence on this issue was that offered through Commonwealth witnesses. I was convinced that, that efforts by the Department of State, the Department of Health, PennDOT, and other Commonwealth agencies will fully educate the public, and that all these people and the secretaries of those agencies will comply. Further, I was convinced that Act 18 will be implemented in a nonpartisan, even-handed manner.
Right.
The contention is that the whole damn law is partisan.
Yeah, right.
What?
Again, though, I suspect that would go to a sort of facial challenge. Just be what was in the hearts and minds of the people who passed it doesn't necessarily affect the constitutionality of the act itself. Would I assume be his argument? It's interesting. I read I think everything except the closing.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced.
That language keeps coming up.
I am not convinced. He says over and over again. Everything's going to be. Oh, here's one of the women. She was frail and tremulous.
Right. That's one of the ones who, yes, she was frail and tremulous, but I think she could get an absentee ballot.
She was frail and tremulous and blah, blah, blah. Screw her. Oh, yes, I hear these African Americans. Screw them. Bah, 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 bah. I am not convinced.
Yeah. I mean, I read, here's the thing. So I read most of the trial testimony in this case, maybe all of it. I think I missed the closing argument part. But, one of the things that struck me was the testimony, and we were talking about it the last time I was on the show, of Carol H.L., who's the Commonwealth Secretary, whose job it is to administer this stuff. And one of the things I found incredible was she's on the stand, she's being examined by the attorneys trying to overturn the law. And they say, are you aware of when they're going to launch this new Department of State thing? And she's like, no. And they said, well, it's going to be August, I think it's 26th or 27th, whichever date. She's like, no, I'm not aware of that. He's like, you haven't talked to PennDOT about that because it's PennDOT who administers. No, I haven't.
So this is how they're going to administer everything.
This is the same woman who a week before at a press conference said, we're devoting all of our energy and attention to this bill. Well, if you're devoting all of your attention to it, and this is your Department of State issued thing, this seems to be the single most important thing you're going to do as a Commonwealth Secretary. Why aren't you aware of what day it's going to be?
Okay, here's the one that it blew my mind. This blows my mind.
Right.
This is a judge. I question Jonathan Marks, the commissioner of the Bureau of Commissions, Elections, and Legislation with the Department of State, about the effect of a preliminary injunction and the appeal process on the ability of his department to implement the law. While his response in the transcript was equivocal.
Yeah, okay.
In other words, it was, I don't know. Everyone in the courtroom could see his reaction. Alarm, concern, anxiety at the prospect of an injunction. His demeanor tells the story.
Okay.
I'm blown away by that.
Yeah, and I think what he's referring to, if I'm remembering correctly, was
He's an expert in body language?
He does ask Marks what effect would this have, and what Marks said is something to the effect of our department would do everything we could to meet the law as it
no.
changed or whatever. So,
according to the judge, here's what
but
Mark
that doesn't
said.
really count.
Yeah, according to the judge, here's what Jonathan Marks said. No, our department. You have to look at the face.
Right.
Our department would do everything. He had to have been hyperventilating, looking alarmed, anxious. I mean, his blood pressure off the charts, flight and fright response, or whatever that is. No judge in his right mind disregards the transcript and says his demeanor tells the story, as everyone in the courtroom could see. I'm sorry. That's unbelievable to me, right there. That little thing.
Right, and that's testimony. That's what he's essentially saying. If you think about it, what he's essentially saying is, the judge, asked this guy a question, and essentially he was trying to bullshit
his
me.
response.
And I didn't pay attention to his response because essentially
I didn't.
That's sworn testimony, right? I mean, Jonathan Marks was under oath.
So he's saying he really perjured himself. He didn't quite say the right thing. And I think I was looking at his eyes and noticing a slight moisture on his upper lip. And I could tell, what the hell? I could tell he really wanted to tell me what I wanted to hear. To me, this is so damning, that little paragraph there. I cannot believe this.
Of course, we weren't there, so it could be that Jonathan Marks went into a fainting spell. Had to be revived with a handkerchief administered by his boss, Carol H.L. So, yeah.
I guess the judge didn't see this by this Philadelphia writer about the law being literally morally indefensible.
Right, but I think that's the point there that we all sort of need to keep in mind. Just because something morally indefensible doesn't mean it's not legally defensible. So, I think, this will get into, I don't want to get too far into the weeds in this sort of legal shenanigans or whatever, but the legal, the way lawyers think. But I mean, again, I think when you read the trial transcript, it's very obvious that nobody, and I wrote about this in the paper last week's issue, nobody gave any thought at all when they were putting this law together about what it would actually entail. They gave 24 hours consideration to how many people might actually need new IDs as a result of it. 24 hours in the case of a year-long legislative process. There's just no serious thought given to any of that stuff during the crafting it together, but the judge is looking at the language of the law and really not considering anything beyond that. And in fact, basically faults the plaintiffs, faults the ACLU for trying to bring up stuff that's actually about this law as applied. The way we're going to apply this law is potentially a disaster. And he says, that's not my problem. My problem is the law as it's written, not as it's applied, but as it's written.
Fine and dandy. Total disaster. Total disaster. I have to admit, I didn't think for a minute. I thought anyone obviously hearing this would, oh, God. And in order for the Supreme Court to overturn it, you'd need 4 justices. Let's just say this. There aren't 4 Democrats on the court. That's enough said.
That's right, and that's important for people to remember. I mean, this is now it's a 3-3 court, but if the court ties, the tie goes to upholding the lower court holding. So, it would have to be a 4-2 decision. It's like you said,
and the likelihood seems pretty unlikely. Forget about it.
Yeah,
forget about it. Well, that was no way to start my day.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's on us now.
Well, this guy in this article points out something that if we now get on every legislature, what are the odds? The odds of that? It's a Republican-controlled legislature that we could get the legislature to repeal
it's not
the law. It is not going to happen.
And now they will all say a judge has upheld the legality of this law. It is. I don't. Yeah. It's simply not going to happen. I think it's. I mean, I don't think anything in that courtroom changed. I mean, if anything, this legal proceeding has probably confirmed both sides in the rightness of their views, right? I mean, what's clearly obvious is there's really no call for this legislation in the first place. There's also clearly no call to do it in the next 3 months. States that have been referred to, when the argument for this law was being made, you had Republicans saying, the state of Georgia had this law and turnout increased, which is true. But the way the state of Georgia handled it was they phased it in over the period of a few years. They phased it in so they wouldn't have these kinds of like last minute, oh my God, what are we going to kind of do?
We did this so precipitously, right. Because as
Mike Turzai
acknowledged, because they want to be able to give Romney a win here.
Yeah.
Those SOBs. Okay, well, so there it is. So did you have a nice vacation?
Yeah. The weather was a little iffy, but it was actually the first time.
The first time your son was introduced to the ocean.
Yes.
How'd that go?
He liked the sand. He liked running towards the water, but he was upset. He was appalled and outraged that the water would come to meet him. And then when he actually found himself ankle deep in water,
he didn't like that.
He didn't like it. I mean, you can understand the whole. One thing this kid has learned is the floor underneath your feet stays the same. Sometimes it's hard and you hurt yourself. Sometimes it's soft.
And the sand.
But it doesn't suddenly become wet.
Sink.
And then you sink into it. That was the part when the water would sort of pull back out.
No,
which, you can see that's a little scary because it does pull on you and then all of a sudden you
sink. Right.
But, for me, the whole thing for me was this is the first time since the week he was born that I've spent more than 3 days with him. So when you think about it, that's... And he's sort of being we're at a difficult point, 15 months. That's a difficult age, apparently. But for the most part, I'm happy to say he's actually a fairly delightful child. He laughs a lot. He's fun, and it's a testament to his mother, I think, and the job she's done. So, because God knows I haven't had a damn thing to do with it. So.
That is so not true. You have to.
Anyway, he's so
you had a good time.
It was good. Yeah, we spent a little time with my father and who was also down for part of the thing.
Okay,
so it was nice.
Nice familial.
Yeah, I mean, and then you can never get away thanks to the miracle of modern technology. So I got to hear about Jim Roddy being a dickhead, and I got to hear about the Jordan Miles thing.
A lot of bad news.
Yeah, though we talked about that before I left, and the outcome isn't terribly strong. I would suggest, as I've been suggesting to people, and maybe you talked about it. KDKA had a fascinating interview with the jury foreman,
with the black juror?
with the lone black juror, and it was pretty interesting to contrast that juror's perception of deliberations with the account of a different juror in the Post-Gazette story.
I have not seen that.
So give us well, the black juror says essentially, tells KDKA, at one point, it really seemed to me like a majority of us were on Jordan Miles' side. And then we came back for deliberations the Tuesday before the ruling, before the verdict. We came back Tuesday, and all of a sudden it seemed like overnight they had changed their minds. Okay, that's his perception. I don't know that it's true or not. But what's interesting is in the Post-Gazette account, one of the white jurors says, we couldn't get these two jurors to 100%. We were very close, but we couldn't get them to 100%. So both sides are saying the other side was real close to taking our point of view, but opted out at the last minute.
Well, that's odd.
Yeah, it is odd, and I think it's this sort of this entire case has sort of had this sort of Rashomon quality to it. Black kid, white cops. Something happens between them. They all have widely divergent accounts. Now you've got a black juror and white jurors, sharply different version of how they weighed the sharply different accounts of what happened. Yeah. It's just this, So you've got a racially divisive case ended up in a sort of racially divided jury, and it's just it's just a general sense of that trial lasted 3 weeks, and as far as I can see, did absolutely nothing to clarify any of the fundamental issues. Would your advice
to Jordan Miles and his supporters, of which I certainly am one, be to
drop the case,
leave it?
I don't know. I think the real problem, and my colleague Charlie Dietz wrote a piece that was again in last week's issue, but still available online at pghcitypaper.com. I think pointed out sort of the essential problem of this trial, which is Jordan Miles' life, his grade point average, his SAT scores, who his girlfriend ended up with. All of that stuff was put out before the jury. What the jury never heard was the work history of the officers involved. And there was going to be, we talked about this a little bit, there was going to be the potential for rebuttal testimony from
Commander
Rochelle Brackney
right.
about a lack of candor on these officers' parts, on an overzealousness with a lack of probable cause. I don't know what that testimony was going to be, so I'm just taking the word for the filings that was it. But the jury did not hear that stuff because it was deemed that it would have been prejudicial. So I think if you can't get that, if there's no way to reverse that part of the ruling, then they're never going to succeed, because on a jury, there's always going to be a certain percentage of people who are going to say, look, I'm taking the word of 3 cops over one kid.
Right.
And if you have no reason not to believe those police, if nothing has been in the record, I can't see how a jury's ever going to come down on any other question, on any other thing. So that's the answer to your question. If that can't be remedied somehow, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what means might be available, that's it. The other thing
let's explain too. There will be a civil suit.
No, that's it. It's a federal. That was a federal civil rights.
Wait. There's no other. This is it.
As far as I know, I can't imagine that they. I mean, he's gone. He said my civil rights were violated. So I mean, but it was not a criminal civil rights case. It was a civil rights case. He was a plaintiff. It's like could he go to a state level remedy, and say like, oh, it was wrongful something or other, or could he file for like they dislocated my shoulder, or like a
so the only thing left for him is to retry to go
on the
right
remaining
back
two cases,
on the
remaining two counts that were not that a thing wasn't found on. The other thing too, I'll also say the one thing we were talking about, the KDKA, the juror on KDKA and the juror in the Post-Gazette and their difference. The one thing they agreed on was that for at least some of the jurors, Jordan Miles, the fact that he lived in Homewood was something that was held against him. That's what the jurors said is, look, he was out late at night
in a high crime
area. The police had a right to ask him. The police had a right to ask him these questions, and everything just unfolded.
So, by virtue of the fact that he lives in Homewood and where he sleeps in Homewood,
regrettably
necessitated a trip, walking trip to his grandmother's.
Yeah. He's subject to an extra degree of scrutiny that somebody like me, who grew up and suffered from insomnia in Upper St. Clair and used to walk around the streets of my neighborhood at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night, I would never expect to go through that scrutiny, and I don't think a jury would ever expect me to be. Damn. So and the sad thing is, and I'll be writing about this online a little later today. I mean, I think the jury is right about that. There's a Supreme Court case that basically says simply being in a high crime area may give officers the right to treat you differently.
Okay, so, oh man.
Yeah.
That's not even separate but equal. That's separate and unequal.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's like one of the things that I think is just so vexing about this for people. I'm sure to a lot of white people, for a police officer to say, look, Homewood's a high crime area. Our job is to take guns and drugs off the street. We saw somebody who looked suspicious at 11 o'clock at night in a high crime area. We went to talk to him. He took off. And that's what precipitated everything that happens. I'm sure that makes sense to a lot of white people, even if they would never accept that in their own neighborhoods.
Correct.
And yet, a lot of black people, like, that very thing is exactly the problem.
Exactly.
Nobody ever said, and the jurors all agreed, that Jordan Miles was a nice guy. He's a nice kid. He wasn't doing anything wrong. And yet, he's just supposed to take this because of where he lives. And I think, like, that's the thing.
How any parent could tolerate that is
beyond me. You can see where there's just this sort of same country but two different worlds aspect to this stuff.
And why does it also shows that there's an obvious inability to empathize or put yourself in somebody else's shoes on the part of an awful lot of people.
Well, I think they put themselves in the officer's shoes. I think that's what it came down to.
No, but I feel the same way about, for instance, Governor Corbett, let's take, suburbanite. I don't really think he has any sense at all about what the importance of public transit in people's lives. It's not something that's even in his purview. What, you mean people don't have cars?
Yeah.
I mean, he might know it on one level, but he can't relate to it in any way.
Well, I think he has what he perceives as bigger fish to fry, which are these concerns about pension costs and government costs and things like that. And he's made a no new taxes pledge, and that's going to trump this other stuff. So the union just needs to concede and concede and concede. And then he and the state legislature will decide if they've made enough concessions.
Okay, well, the big news
Speaking
is
of which.
today is they did make a bunch of concessions. So now the union's got to decide whether or not they'll accept this.
Yes.
Yeah.
The rank and file will vote on it this weekend. I've not. Our transportation reporter Lauren Daly is looking into it. I think the interesting thing about that contract is. And it speaks to some sophistication on the union's part. There's also a poison pill sort of provision within it that basically says if state support doesn't materialize and we end up having to shut down one of the garages or lay off more than I think 5% of our members, then this contract
is void,
goes out the window, and we go back to the old one. So, I respect the spirit behind that, which is we're not just going to roll over for you.
Right.
We're going to maintain a certain amount of leverage here, and I think that's. I had not expected that per se, but I think it's an interesting approach for them to take, and probably a necessary one, because I think the state's just sort of demonstrated. Even if Corbett can be trusted, do you trust the state house?
I don't trust any of these people. All right, this is so depressing. Is there any story that's like a good story in the news? In your any? No.
I'm really excited about Paul Ryan.
That's not a good story.
It's a great story.
All right, go ahead. Give us your Paul Ryan.
I think what we were sort of up against, Democrats, was a candidate for president in Mitt Romney who's just a complete cipher. Right? I mean, nobody really knew what they were getting with that guy, and it made him kind of slippery. And now there's Paul Ryan, and I think all the things that we all sort of knew about Mitt Romney but found it very hard to pin him down on are now going to be very easy to pin him down on. I disagree, because I don't think the two of them are really in the same place at all. And I also think that not real. I don't think Romney is as conservative as Paul Ryan. I don't think that he necessarily is either. But at this point, you didn't know what he was, and now we can say, here's what we know. He picked this guy to be a heartbeat away from the presidency, and in the absence of any real policy prescriptions from you can't complain when your own running mate has these policy prescriptions, and we assume that that's what we're going to do. It's going to put him in a very interesting position. Well,
I hope people will. My concern is that Paul Ryan is a in some ways a very likable.
He's personable.
Likable.
Yeah.
Articulate. Unflappable.
He's flappable. Did you see the footage of him at Iowa the other day?
I don't think that would look flappable.
I think he looked a little flapped.
Whatever. I mean, I think he's and the other thing about him is he tends to, unlike a lot of politicians, he tends to say what he thinks.
Yeah, but what he thinks is completely out of step.
I know, but that's appealing.
If it's so appealing, let's go back and remember that when Paul Ryan proposed this great budget solution of his that all the Republicans were supposed to rally behind, let's remember that the Republicans then promptly lost a state special election in New York State. That in a traditionally strongly Republican thing, and that was exactly the issue that came out.
Right.
Let's recall, if speaking your mind was such a great thing, why is the RNC now telling all of its candidates in competitive congressional races,
don't let Paul anywhere near you.
Let's not embrace this. And let's not talk about privatizing these things. Let's talk about strengthening them and blah 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 blah. Let's hedge our bets. So they bring the guy out, and let's remember, how does Mitt Romney bring this guy out? He rolls him out on Saturday, like on Friday. The first I heard about it was I was listening to NPR on the drive home from the beach, and there was a joke about it on Saturday morning. And I was just like, really? Paul Ryan? Okay. Like that's how he rolls it out. That's how you handle bad news. It's clearly a bone he still has to toss to his Tea Party base because they still don't trust Romney, and rightfully so. And now he's stuck with him.
Well, also when it comes to the Tea Party, I mean, you've got Ryan, who voted for the bailout stuff, did a lot of stuff the Tea Party doesn't like. He's even done some pro-union votes in his day.
Oh, yeah. Voted for all the spending in the Bush administration.
He even, works with Democrats on occasion. Yeah. That's why I'm saying, I mean, I don't know. I think he might appeal to some independents, but then again, let us recall he is the vice presidential nominee, and that usually doesn't mean much of anything.
Yeah. In this case, though, I don't know. I mean, look back at Sarah Palin. You know what I mean?
Well, that's just because she was a disaster.
Right. Exactly. Oh, I'm saying this could be. I don't know that it will be, but it certainly could be. You know, I mean,
the weird thing about him too. He's never had a,
real job,
private sector job,
right.
Which, according to Romney, disqualifies
him from being president.
Yet he has, and Maureen Dowd points out today that, like Romney, Ryan believes that he's made it on his own, like a good, Randian.
Right.
So everybody, all of the rest of us can pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. And he doesn't see that he had an advantage, that he grew up in a white upper middle class family with all kinds of connections.
Right.
He went right into a wonderful summer internship for a senator in Washington, and he never came back. I mean, he's worked in government all his life. And in fact, he's been collecting, Social Security since he was a child.
That's right, because his father died when he was young. That's right. That's exactly right. It's funny. It's funny about these guys too. You look at so many of these Tea Party saviors purported. You wonder how much the Tea Party really knows about these guys. Like Chris Christie was another one of these. It's just like, Chris Christie, really? Like, I guarantee you, if they knew anything about Chris Christie, they'd be a hell of a lot less excited about him. What they like is he just sticks it to people. He punches them in the face. That's what they like. It's not about the content. It's about the presentation.
That's right.
So as long as you go around and just be a jerk, that's what they want to see, because it fulfills their own jerk desires to punch liberals in the face because they think we're destroying the country or whatever.
Right.
And I think it's as much about style as anything else. By the way, can I tell you what bummed me out this morning? Mm-hmm. So I'm waiting for my mass transit ride, and there's some dudes doing electrical wiring on our little stop or whatever, and they're listening to some country shit kicker anthem, I think called "God and Guns," the chorus of which went something like, "We may as well turn tail and run if we let them take our God and guns." And it's just like that's a song, that is a song that's out there. And it's just first of all, I want you to enjoy the paycheck you're earning. While you listen to your redneck anthems about big government taking away your stuff, while you do your government contract work on my tax dollars, please enjoy the money. Go out and buy yourself some, more shit-kicking music or whatever. Second of all, I don't care about your God and I don't care about your guns. Neither does President Obama. Get over yourselves. It's just amazing, this redneck fantasy land that some of these people live in. I know you want to feel important. I know you want to feel like everyone's out to get you. No one gives a shit.
That's true.
No one cares about your gun, really. Nobody's going to take it away from you because we've lost that battle, as you and I have talked many times. And certainly nobody cares about your God.
Can we take a break so I can slit my wrists?
Well, don't do that. Wait till after the program. I don't want to do the next half hour by myself.
But you're fully capable.
You owe me that much.
Fully capable. I've barely said, what would be the word count if we were to add it up?
Oh, dear. We should do a transcript and find out.
No, I barely said a word.
Okay, you pick up.
This is what you get if you don't have him for 2 weeks.
Yeah, right.
You feel like you got to make up the whole. Jeez, God. All right, Chris Potter, editor of Pittsburgh City Paper, my guest today. And we're both a little down in the dumps. Pick your reason. My God, there's, how do we count the ways? I want you to come up with a good news story, and it shouldn't be Paul Ryan, for God's sakes. That doesn't classify as good news. Do you think he looks like Dracula? My mother does.
I hear is Eddie Munster.
Well, that's the same thing. It's the thing. Yeah, that's what it does. So that widow's thing does. And how did it get that name? A widow's peak.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3333. 888-848-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Laser Hair and Skin Center has been providing professional, affordable services for over 10 years. Now they're proud to exclusively offer RegenLite acne treatment. RegenLite is an FDA-approved, non-invasive drug, chemical, and pain-free treatment of all grades of acne. With RegenLite, you will experience a 50% improvement in less than 2 weeks, with lasting improvement for up to 12 weeks. Call the Laser Hair and Skin Center today at 412-373-1700 and receive $100 off your first session. Or go to mylaserhair.com for more information and to see their full line of services. The Laser Hair and Skin Center.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Science Center, History Museum, Carnegie Museums, and some of the best restaurants in Pittsburgh. This week, get 40% off gift cards to the Manor Theater in Squirrel Hill. bergbargains.com. Local deals, local merchants. bergbargains.com. Get Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All right. Hey, did you know, and I saw this in the Times today, that when Ayn Rand was buried, that she had a 6-foot dollar sign placed beside her coffin?
Yeah, that sounds right.
God!
That's a reference, of course, to Atlas Shrugged. The dollar sign was like this secret symbol almost for Galt.
I don't.
It's interesting to see. I mean, it's interesting to see that how he's now sort of backed away from that stuff because, of course, I mean, Ayn Rand was a polyamorous atheist, so
and totally for abortion. She thought abortion was a moral right.
It's really remarkable how people are sort of able to hold those two things.
Well, but if you think about, because it's the same people you're talking about, how if the Tea Party really knew, blah, 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 maybe they don't know. Maybe, again, they seem to have an extraordinary capacity, not just to hold two disparate kinds of thoughts in their heads at the same time, but literally to disengage from reality.
Right. And their own history. I mean, if you look at who was the harshest critic of Ayn Rand back in the day, it was like William F. Buckley, who was a devout Catholic and felt that capitalism unfettered by a religiously mandated morality would do
exactly what it's doing.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, it is bizarre.
Oh, my Lord. So, anyway, I saw the flower vendor on the corner reading the new issue of Pittsburgh City Paper, which has a wedding cake on it with two women. Nobody even reacts anymore.
No.
Although people have to. Lots of them do. Okay, so is this something we want to talk about?
Sure, yeah.
And do we personalize it? Lauren Daly?
Yes, the story is personalized. Lauren Daly, our staff writer, is,
no, we don't. We don't know anything.
She's a lesbian.
She's a lesbian. You mean she just flaunts it? She's right out there. She says she's a lesbian? Right in your face?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My gosh.
Yep. So, and she and her partner are getting married in a few weeks.
In New York.
In New York State.
Where it's legal.
Yes. So they're going up there, and this is about, she's been writing a series of pieces about this over the course of the year, just as they've kind of encountered some of the special challenges that face the same-sex couples in terms of their legal rights or whatever. And what this particular feature is about is she's now sent out the wedding invitations, and some of the responses have been less than entirely receptive.
Are you saying that some, what does she know? She's sending them to?
She well, I mean, but you send them to everybody, and I think, and what she says in the piece is, we understood, we knew there were going to be people who were going to struggle with this. We know our family. They're both from families that have devoutly religious people in them, and so they knew that some of them they weren't going to hear from back, that some of them were really going to struggle with it. But you hope for the best in a situation like that. You hope that the people that you've known all of your life will be able to kind of take that and their love for you and respect for you and allow that to trump their sort of personal doctrinal feelings about this stuff. And in some cases that has happened. In fact, in the story she says, some of the people we expected to really kind of try to run us out on a rail actually were the first people to RSVP and to stand up for us.
Well, This is weird because I can't seem to get my mail anymore.
Oh dear.
I get little things down here that say,
So would
where
you
I
rather
see
be talking
it,
to somebody
and then
else? Is that what this?
No, I just want, if there's people out there, and there are, who want to get in on the conversation, and for some reason I'm not, it's just not.
Why don't you scroll down? I think you reverse the order in which they're displaying.
You do?
Yeah.
Why would I have done something like that?
Because it's easy. If you just click on date.
Oh, what's happening now?
You're
What
shrinking
is
You're shrinking the screen, goofball.
Jeez.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
There. Now these are at least more current.
I disagree. And all of that is just crap.
Oh. Well, all right.
No, wrong. So.
When was the last time I ever tried to do anything for you? Yeah, there you go. It's your Onion correspondent. Judge rejects challenge.
That's it?
Yeah. This is the more recent stuff. Yeah.
Well, how the hell did that happen? Oh,
I don't know.
got
You
that.
obviously don't.
Don't know how to. Okay, I'm sorry. This is interesting. What were we talking about?
Lauren Daly's story about her heartbreak,
you know what?
callous person.
Oh yeah, right. I was the first person in our family to marry outside. I mean, I did something somewhat like that. I didn't marry a woman. I married a non-Jew.
Oh dear.
And that was a first.
Yeah.
And that was not kindly looked at by members of my family.
Right.
Nor my husband's, who, was a Catholic family, and they hadn't had a Jew come into it. So, yeah, that gets a little sticky.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
And there's some people who are... Some people who do the right thing by saying, it's none of my damn business who she marries, and I'll just,
Right.
I love her and I'll, support her. And some people who just think that this is an opportunity for them to stage some kind of a major protest or something. It's just unbelievable.
Which is really unfortunate. I mean, if you really can't see your way clear to do it, then just don't go.
Then just don't go.
Don't feel a need to sort of like them. But whatever, that's how people roll, I guess. As I often ruminated when I myself was getting married, whether it's a same-sex marriage or an opposite-sex marriage or whatever, the actual wedding is like the obstacle course for the relationship itself.
Yeah.
Everything you're going to deal with in your marriage is concentrated into a very short period of time. If you have in-law static, if you have money issues, if you just have, what's important to you in terms of, how you spend your money and all that stuff, all of these things are going to come up in the course of your wedding. It's like the little obstacle course. If you can get through the wedding, the marriage is a breeze. That's what I think. Says the guy who's been married for 5 years.
Don't extrapolate from your
exactly,
own, come on.
Right.
I got through my wedding just fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. So did my parents, for that matter. So
yeah.
Right.
Okay, this just in. Displaying the tough, no-nonsense talk and firm commitment to conservative principles that led to his selection as the Republican vice presidential candidate. Representative Paul Ryan has taken to the campaign trail and begun viciously attacking the record of running mate and former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney. Within hours of joining the GOP ticket Saturday, Ryan went on the offensive against the GOP candidate. And he has continued to cast him as a pro-abortion crusader and shameless political chameleon. Blah, blah, blah. Mitt Romney doesn't want you to know the disturbing truth about his record, as Governor Ryan said. But the facts are clear. Governor Romney embraced the legalization of same-sex marriage. He imposed anti-business carbon emission limits. And he championed efforts to limit Second Amendment rights. This isn't the record of strong family values and small government ideals that our country needs to get back on the road to prosperity. This is a record of ruin. The fact is the two of them, I mean, it is. They disagree on so much stuff that it's, I don't know.
They seem pretty happy now, though. I mean, from what I've read, Romney, even with, Romney seems to be much happier to have this guy. He's a white bread guy. He seems relatively without drama. So,
as somebody pointed out, this ticket is the Republicans' idea of diversity.
Right. A Mormon and a Catholic white guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. Exactly right. Okay. Now I'm trying to get. Somebody has written in on Widow's Peaks.
Oh, it's Ray. Here we go. Ray always has the goods on this stuff.
Widows would wear hooded shawls
that had a pointed peak.
I wondered if I actually was sort of getting that mental image. Yeah. Widows wear when? I mean, I think that must go back
Jeez, don't yell at me. He'll tell
quite a
us.
piece. Here's more bad news.
Uh-oh.
Thank you very much. As if the news wasn't bad enough this morning, the Penn State faithful woke up today to read the Penn State. Yeah, is in danger of losing its accreditation.
I don't think that's
it's not going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen.
That is not going to happen.
People who are interested or concerned about it, there's a story at Philly.com, which is the web presence for the Philadelphia Inquirer and Daily News, which basically says this is more a pro forma thing. It's not going to
That's
happen.
right. No, it ain't going to happen. And also, she says, if that wasn't enough, the Penn State Creamery ice cream has been found to contain foreign objects recently.
Like what?
Used condoms.
Oh no!
No, that's not true.
If they were American objects, it wouldn't be a problem. Is that what this political season has come to?
No, it is awful. I mean, I feel sorry for all of you who had a wonderful experience at Penn State, and it's like you say that now, and it just has such a taint to it. PJ writes, if you think Ryan is unflappable, watch the YouTube videos of him asking constituents
to leave town hall meetings.
And then in one case having them arrested.
Yeah.
In typical Republican fashion, you can see him start to boil over because how dare you question him if he gets put in a situation where he can't control the setting. He's going to lose his cool, and we'll see his uber controlling nature. Thank you, PJ. I obviously have some homework to do about Mr. Ryan. So in his home state, in my home state of Wisconsin, there was an election yesterday to determine who the Republican nominee for the Senate, and it's so depressing.
Well, it's Tommy Thompson, right?
Tommy Thompson, the former governor.
Yeah.
He was a very popular governor, actually.
He was, yeah.
And then he was the Health and Human Services Secretary to who?
Bush, I thought.
H.W.?
No.
The George?
W, yeah.
What, George? I guess I can't remember. Anyway, he'll be running against Tammy Baldwin, who's a member of Congress and who would be the first openly gay senator in the United States.
And apparently sitting on a lot of money, from what I understand. So
Tammy?
that should be an interesting race. Thompson, I don't know why you're depressed by it, because he was not the Tea Party choice in that race.
No, I know. Actually, there were 4 guys in the race, and he was like the moderate.
Yeah.
But look, given a choice of voting for a liberal lesbian, the Republicans will be voting for.
But I mean, if you had to deal with one of those guys, wouldn't you rather deal with Thompson than one of the Tea Party nuts? I mean.
Well, actually, in the Wisconsin primaries, as you know, there's crossover voting, and I know my mother voted in the Republican primary. She voted early. And she said she voted for Thompson. And I said, why would you vote for him? And she said, because of the 4, he is the most reasonable. Right. And she said, there was one in particular, one of these self-funded businessmen types who she was just terrified about. They already have one of those as one of the senators from Wisconsin.
Right.
Boy, has that state gone down. Unbelievable.
I have to say, I really have been surprised at the...
What's happened to
I don't know. You should go up and find out.
I was just there. I was there this weekend.
I mean, you should really spend some time up there. This could be a book opportunity for you. I'm not even kidding.
I don't want to write a political book. I hate politics. I do.
What?
I hate it.
I don't even know what I'm doing here anymore.
Well, I do. I hate it.
What just happened?
It's so awful. It's so... to make your living immersed in the nastiness of current politics.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to admit, it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
Hey, you said something about Jim Roddy saying something terrible. And I know I'm wrong about this, but I said it then. I regularly say things like he said about Republicans. So what's so god-awful about what he said? Then I see all the letters to the editor. What was awful is he said retarded. Help me here. Is retarded now not a word you can utter?
I think generally speaking, using it as an epithet It's not necessarily the word itself, but using it in this derisive, as a figure of fun, kind of way. I myself, look, I mean, I just thought it was I just thought it was a juvenile and really dumb joke. I just thought it was dumb. It's just like, what next? Are we just gonna, are we gonna call them PP heads? Is that like, I mean, that's like one step above.
Well, sure, and I'm sure we already come on. I don't think
you and
I hate.
If you've ever gotten up in front of a crowd and said those Republicans are big PP heads, I would be disappointed.
Well, PP head is not in my vocabulary. Is something I would say, but I'm sure I've said equally. I've said they're insane. I've said they're idiots. Okay,
yeah,
I suppose
sure.
Idiot is like retarded. Yeah. I've said,
retarded does have a clinical. When you say somebody's retarded, you're actually referring to a specific set of the population who has.
He was saying you can't be too bright if you're supporting Obama.
I realize that,
okay?
but the context was he was pulling into a handicap space. So now I'm going to use handicap. I'm not hugely worked up about it. I just thought it was a dumb joke, and I made fun of Roddy for making it. But you're talking about handicapped parking spaces. You're clearly using a particular population who is, already roundly mocked and disadvantaged in many ways, and you're using them to score points on your political opponents. It was a tacky thing to do and a tasteless thing to do. I don't think it was, the worst thing ever, but I don't think you can be surprised when people denounce them for it either.
And then wasn't it found out that he's like on the board of some
on
the board of what?
I can't remember which one, but yeah, I think it's
like some disabled people's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder if he'll be run off.
Jim Roddy sees himself as kind of a card. I've watched him do this. Well, he does,
and he is fun. He's like a good MC.
Yeah, he does exactly. He does that stuff, right? So he gets up. I mean, I saw him do a very similar routine when introducing when Tim Pawlenty and Bobby Jindal came to town. I saw him do a very similar thing. So that's just kind of his bread and butter, whatever. And he stepped in it this time. He's apologized, which I think was the right thing to do. So.
Jeez. Wonder why I haven't had to apologize recently. I mean...
you're supposed to be obnoxious.
I guess so. That's probably it, because I don't recall apologizing. Have I ever apologized? I don't know.
You probably have.
I probably have. I mean, I actually said there should just be a blanket apology at the end of every show, or even at the beginning of every show.
Probably at the beginning, preemptively.
Yeah. And if I, in the next 60 minutes, offend you, I'm sorry. But... part of my job.
Yeah. Maybe you should work harder at it, because I haven't really been offended yet today. So
you haven't?
I don't think so. Have you offended me today?
No, I haven't done much of anything today.
All right, that's it. You can have the next 12 minutes to yourself then.
Okay, no, wait. I do want to take a... Okay. Jess is giving me that look. That sort of pruny look. Yeah.
The pruny look. No, that was a pruny look. That was very well described.
See? Ha ha.
Very well done.
And he's the editor.
You're still doing it.
Yeah, there it is. She's got a good pruny look, doesn't she? Okay. Well, I guess we have to take a break. Hello?
Do it.
I'm giving you a
on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Pittsburgh City Paper is now available on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com to read this week's digital issue or search for restaurants, bars, concerts, events, and movies on any portable device. Plus blogs, Lynn Cullen, City Guide, CPTV, and Best of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com. And on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Lord Allen Events, producer of the country's most popular high-end festivals, returns to Walnut Street in Shadyside. The 15th annual Shadyside Art Festival on Walnut Street will be held August 25th and 26th, transforming this popular shopping district into an outdoor art gallery with an eclectic mix of the country's top established artists, as well as new and emerging talent. Admission is free and open to the public. Showtimes for the Shadyside Art Festival on Walnut Street are Saturday 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. For more information, call 412-682-1298 or log on to www.artfestival.com.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You can improve your future. Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
That's true. Oh, here's something. Hello, are we back? Okay. There's a primary to a guy named Tim Walz is running in a Minnesota district. Mm-hmm. Oh no, that's not it. No, the Walz is the Democrat running against Alan Quist, a one-time anti-sodomy crusader who believes that humans and dinosaurs may have coexisted in Southeast Asia as late as the 11th century. Now, this is not from The Onion. This is the real deal. This is someone in Minnesota who makes Michelle Bachmann look like like she's a progressive. Quist's platform and ideology bears some resemblance to Bachmann's. This was her mentor. Oh, he helped bring her into politics. Quist has slammed a gay counseling clinic, compared it to the Ku Klux Klan. He said he went undercover at an adult bookstore and
that's the excuse, huh?
And a gay bathhouse in an effort to prove to a local newspaper reporter that they had become a haven for anal intercourse.
That sounds like an advertisement. I visited this bathhouse dozens of times just to make sure.
Sure. And yep, they're still
And I want you to know I was undercover the whole time.
A decade later, Bachmann would bring groups of supporters onto the Capitol floor to pray over the desk of a gay colleague.
What did they think the desk was going to catch it?
No, so
they think the desk was going to sneak out at night?
This is when they're in the Minnesota legislature.
Just cruise IKEA? Looking for a little Swedish action?
Another Senate leader suggested that Quist seemed to have an unhealthy preoccupation with sex.
I would say.
Yeah, having devoted 30 hours to it in a single session.
That's
Quist
I'm envious of any man who could devote 30 hours to sex in a single session. No wonder he's focused on it.
Quist was a staunch pro-lifer who once argued that abortion should be classified as first-degree homicide. When his pregnant wife died in a car accident in 1986, he had the 6.5-month-old fetus
placed in his wife's
that
arms.
She was carrying, placed in his wife's arms in an open casket.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God!
Dear me.
In one memorable interview, Quist told a reporter he believed women were genetically predisposed to be subservient to men, pointing to, among other things, the behavior of wild animals.
So we're taking our cues from animals now in terms of how we're going to behave.
Well, doesn't he know that? Well, oh God.
I had thought that conservatives were against that
because they think that's like nature.
Yeah.
And so when you tell them that there's tons of homosexuality in nature, that blows that. Oh my God! So this guy is, and this is the quality. Minnesota used to be a really progressive state. Yeah. What is going on?
I don't know. It's really
there?
An interesting story. Somebody should get. I'm really serious. Somebody should be like up there figuring that out, because I have often wondered it throughout this whole Tea Party weirdness. I'm telling you, you should get up there. You should go and take a hiatus and go up and write the account of what happened What's the matter with Wisconsin?
Okay, I don't know. And Minnesota.
Yeah.
So here's Quist again, this guy who I guess is going to be going to the Congress, going to be another great Republican representative in Washington. Did dinosaurs and people live at the same time? And why do
you watch the Flintstones?
And why do so many recently discovered ancient artworks accurately picture dinosaurs? The only reasonable explanation for the Stegosaurus carved in stone on the wall of a Cambodian temple is that the artist had either seen the Stegosaurus or had seen other artworks of a Stegosaurus. Either way, people and Stegosaurus were living at the same time.
Art mirrors life. So,
He got into trouble in 2009 for calling President Obama a power-hungry, arrogant black man.
As opposed to the power-hungry, arrogant white men we prefer to elect.
Oh, God almighty. Okay. So
that guy sounds great.
So he's going to be probably, there he is. There's your soybean farmer. And he's running for Congress. He just won Minnesota's 1st district Republican primary.
Who did he beat? Like somebody?
I don't know, but he's going to be facing, I guess, the incumbent Democrat Tim Walz. Because and that's a very iffy district. And you mean so? He'll have all this Republican money behind him, the old soybean farmer who dodges stegosauruses while he's plowing his fields. Dear Lord in heaven. Oh, man. Okay. I don't know what else to say.
I like the idea that, like, clearly art proves stuff. So if you found, as you would in portions of Central and Southeast Asia, renderings of goddesses with multiple arms, does that mean there used to be people walking around with multiple arms? Like, is that the standard of proof or whatever? Like, good gravy.
Good gravy is right. Truer words were never spoken. Well,
Hokier words either.
Okay, so the soybean farmer's off to D.C. maybe, and he can join the. And it looks like the Republicans can actually pick up seats in the House, and that House is absolutely as totally useless. You know what? How many members in the House? 400.
435.
We're paying them. Big money.
Oh, yeah.
The taxpayers of this country are paying those guys tons of money. The benefits are unbelievable. You want billions? Throw those SOBs out right now and don't let them come back. They've done nothing.
Hey.
They've done nothing. They passed how many bills? The least number of legislation since World War II, which makes the do-nothing Congress of Harry Truman now look like the busiest guys in the universe.
Hey, stopping the socialist takeover of the United States is a full-time job. You don't want these guys making laws. That's big government.
And do you know of the 61 bills that they passed this session?
47 were like post office renamings or something. Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
So what are they doing? Guys, what are they doing? And look at what they're making. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're never in session. When they are, they do absolutely nothing. You've got these lunatics like Bachmann and this jerk probably heading there.
The remarkable thing to me is the whole farm bill clusterfuck, which is essentially just, you've got this, unprecedented levels of drought, as bad in many places or worse than the Dust Bowl era. And you can't get a damn farm aid bill passed because of Republicans in the House. And yet
they're not held responsible.
They're not only are they not held responsible, like you said, they may pick up some seats. They, do you think the farmers who are being hurt out in Iowa and Idaho and all these places are gonna look for an alternative?
Well, this is where, do Democrats do any education? Do they explain anything? If the farmers in Iowa are angry, or the farmers in Oklahoma, these red states, are angry
How are you gonna reach them? They watch Fox. Right? I mean, their incumbent is a Republican. You probably haven't had a viable party structure in a lot of these places in years, if not decades. So what are you going to do? Buy a lot of TV time, I guess, but they're not even,
Oh, my God. Okay. I thought you were supposed to come up with some good news.
Oh, I actually did have something, and then I forgot about it. Okay. What it was. Sorry.
Yeah, you can't remember now?
No, I can't remember. I did actually watch. There's a guy in Market Square on Monday with a megaphone, just standing by himself, like preaching, hell and damnation gospel.
Yeah.
And a small group of people, and they were satisfyingly diverse, was yelling back at him about how wrong he was about homosexuality. It wasn't just sort of young people. There were some older people. There was a black couple who was there, just all yelling. And he was holding his microphone up and he was talking to them, but through the microphone, which I thought was really sort of an apt symbol. And he just said, "Nobody yells at Joel Osteen this way." Which I
he thinks he's Joel.
No, his point was Joel Osteen only wants people to feel good. He's not really preaching the gospel, which I actually believe is true. Because he doesn't love you enough to tell the truth. It was really great. It was just like this very satisfying. Just a bunch of people like, dude, shut up! I'm trying to enjoy my lunch, and you're full of it. And I thought that was reassuring.
That is somewhat reassuring. That's good to hear.
See, there we go.
I thought I had a little piece of good news, but it when you were telling your little piece, my little piece, poof.
Sorry.
It just poof went away. So, did you watch the Olympics while you were?
I saw more of them than I ordinarily would because some of it was on when we were. And of course, when you got a 15-month-old and he's asleep at 8:30.
Yeah.
So I did.
It was pretty neat.
Parts of it were, I can't watch the women's gymnastics because I'm always worried they're going to beam their heads on that balance beam. I cannot watch that.
You're such a worry. Boy.
I cannot watch that event.
Okay.
Mainly, I'm just looking for cute chicks.
Hey, I bumped into the team.
I saw your tweeted from that.
You see that? Yeah.
Actually, for me, it was women's track. I was surprised. There's a high percentage of really hot track.
Well, they're all
very fit and everything. Well, they're all fit, of course, but
they're gorgeous too. I know.
I don't know what happened to that. What was her? Lolo Jones? Is that her name?
Yeah, Lolo. She came in fourth.
Yeah, beautiful.
You think she's gorgeous?
I think she's really pretty. Yeah.
Doesn't do anything for me.
Well, there you go. That's
all right. Okay, we're done, and I can't think of what I did. I actually had a little thing.
Sorry.
That's too bad.
Well, we won the medal count. Woo, USA! Woo!
Yeah, I think it's been a while since we did.
Oh, really? I thought we always won the medal count.
No.
I don't think. I think we fought.
No, I don't.
I think we don't do so well in winter.
No,
Olympics.
I think didn't the Chinese kill us when they had the last games?
Yeah, but there's always a hometown advantage, in Beijing. So come on.
I don't know. I thought we really stuck it to the Chinese pretty much. I love that. Didn't you?
China makes me uncomfortable.
Nervous.
Yeah, a little nervous.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. That's a whole other story, though, and we're out of time. So
we are. He's trying to get back to work.
As
opposed to whatever the hell this was. We don't know what the hell this was. Well, thank you so very much for coming.
All right.
It was very nice to see you. Glad you're home.
Good to be back. You didn't mention how tanned and well rested.
Does that constitute
No,
tan?
it does in my family.
Oh,
but
yeah, look, he's got a little line. It is a slew. Like you are so white.
It's really
It's
true.
unbelievable. You are so
And the beach I was at, which was Bethany Beach in Delaware, maybe the whitest place I've ever been. And I grew up in Upper St. Clair, so that's saying something. It was incredibly white. Almost oppressively so.
Well, I would think anything that's so white is oppressive. I can't stand that.
Yeah, it was just amazing.
Well, next time, why don't you go to someplace else?
Yeah.
Where there's some literally and figuratively some color.
Yes.
Or you're eating white bread sandwiches, too, and oh, God. Oh, how boring. Think of what your son's idea of reality is going to be. You can't...
Growing up with me, my son's idea of reality is going to be pretty skewed
man.
to start with. Don't worry. I'll bring him around to your place anytime we need to straighten him out.
That's right. Introduce him to something a little bit off the beaten path and a little, askew. Okay,
Take
you
care.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Tom Sokolowski tomorrow.
Woo.
I'll try to be better. I've not been good.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.